Figures released this week reveal the New South Wales murder rate is the lowest in 20 years. Police Minister Pickering attributes the drop to more vigorous policing of domestic violence disputes. In Newcastle, community workers welcome the increased police cooperation, but they hope to go still further in dealing with the problem. Counsellors, social workers and refuge workers met today to hear of the latest developments in treating the perpetrators of domestic violence. The workshop was led by Ian McDonald of the Queensland Domestic Violence Council, a counsellor who has pioneered an intervention program for violent men.
They go through a very demanding program. It's a very confronting program in which they learn different skills so that they can behave differently. They look at not only their behaviours but their attitudes and beliefs, and we're encouraged by the response to this program.
Such a program is soon to be launched in Newcastle, with sessions for both the victims and the perpetrators.
Well, there'll be small groups of about 8 to 10 people would be maximum, and looking at issues. Partly the groups of women will be looking at giving them a lot of information about domestic violence and some of the things that they can do to protect themselves in a situation. The group for men will be looking at ways they can control their anger so that it doesn't get out of control, and just giving them a range of alternatives.
Positive will line up in the Tooheys Draft Stakes and Estimable in the President's Handicap. Positive has won his last 2 starts at Warwick Farm and Gosford, and the consistent Estimable will appreciate a drop in class after being placed in much stronger company in his last 2 appearances. For the trifecta at Rosehill tomorrow, Gary likes 1, 4 and 7, Positive to beat Star of Alpine and Perfect Evening. Vale Rogue will be out to make amends for his shock defeat last start when he lines up in tomorrow's Turnbull Stakes at Flemington. The Queenslander will be chasing his 3rd successive Turnbull Stakes, and his main opposition will come from Kings High and Apollo Run. In the Daily Double at Flemington, try Grandiose in the first leg, which is race 6, and Reganza in the second leg, race 7. Racing returns to Beaumont Park tomorrow, and the big fellow Gary Harley reckons that Nation Lou and Tolls Express will provide you with the Daily Double, and for your trifecta, 6, 8 and 3, Like a Wolf to beat Paddy O'Neill and Hill Flash. Trotting at Cessnock tomorrow night, and Devilman should win the first leg of the Daily Double, and Gales Jet the second leg. And for the trifecta, 9, 4 and 1, Devilman to win from Blow and Smoke and Monique Time. Good luck to all the punters.
In spite of the blustery westerly, family groups packed vantage points along the foreshore to watch the parade of bands, floats, youth groups, clowns and vehicles pass from Lee Wharf to Nobbies. In years past, the traditional Matara parade had moved along the city's main street, but this year it was transferred to the popular Foreshore, the venue for many of the festival events. For many of the younger spectators, it was their last day of freedom. It's back to school tomorrow after 2 weeks of holidays. Matara goers were entertained by various musical groups this afternoon. The curtain comes down on a highly successful festival tonight with a fireworks display.
Under grey skies and some drizzle, Wally Lewis saddled up an Elite sprint car as 4 drivers from Queensland took on the best of the Newcastle drivers. Wally received a rousing reception from the large crowd and quickly showed that he's no mug behind the wheel. He was always up with the leaders, and after having a little sojourn into the infield, finished a good third behind the Newcastle pair of Frank Clark and Bob Catlin. Speed car racing provided the most spectacular action of the night when Sydney's Graham Parton clipped the wall on the back straight and upended his car. He was treated by ambulancemen, but he suffered no major injuries. The super sedans turned on a torrid affair with a hard-charging John Pine right in the middle of the action. After winning the first two heats, Pine had to make way for his brother Ron, who won the final. And after some close racing, Tony Hopping won the hot rod division from Graham Edmund, along the way setting a new one-lap record of 16.362 seconds. You won't find too much serious horse racing on a day like today, with most people keen to help the organisers raise money for charity. Today, the Tanambit Morpeth Rotary Club helped raise many dollars for the Rotary International Polio Plus program, the aim of which is to rid the world of the dreadful disease by 1995. As with the tradition of a picnic race day, the pace was leisurely to say the least. A big contingent travelled from Kays Beach for the day, and it wasn't hard to tell if they were enjoying the day. The champagne set were there, taking full advantage of the sun for an early summer tan. It's an event that is a family affair, and the crowd roared encouragement when just the five of us lined up against the dazzling dynamics in the junior girls' tug of war. Just the five of us were a little too strong for the opposition. The big boys had to have their go, of course, and the Caves Beach Crabs, after a mighty struggle, pulled Home Brand over the line for a great victory and then promptly donated the $100 prize money back to the charity. The Trotters made a super sight as they square-gated their way towards the line to the cheers of the mums and dads. And of course there was the racing. Not every start went smoothly, even getting into the stalls was a battle for some. But when they opened the gates, it had all the atmosphere of a big meeting. Now you won't find a Kingston Town or a Vogue in this lot, but a few of these horses know their way around a racecourse. 3 runners lined up for the Morpeth Cup of 1989, and the imported horse Mr T was sent out the short price favourite at evens. In actual fact, all 3 runners were at the same price. It was a close race all the way, with Mr T in the centre holding a slender lead with about 150 metres to go. But then the long-striding Softy, ridden superbly by Alan Robinson, found top gear, and on the line it was Softy who won the cup from Mr T and the fast-finishing Flying Machine. And it was a delighted Anne Shaw, the owner of Softy, who collected the sash and the Morpeth Cup.
Shoppers at a local hardware store saw the snake disappear under the car's rear wheels. Police recruited staff of a nearby garage to help them get a closer look at the wretched reptile. Despite prodding, blasts of compressed air and dousing with water and oil, the obviously terrified snake stayed put. Attempts to dismantle the car were rejected by police, who finally opted for the softly approach.
What he will definitely do when it's all nice and quiet is drop down, because the grass is touching underneath the tank. You know, it'll smell different to him and he'll get out, hopefully. And if not, I told her when she takes it home, don't park it in the garage.
Assurances that the reptile wasn't aggressive clearly didn't comfort everyone. The luckless owner, who preferred the security of the first floor, was equally disappointed to learn that she would probably have to take the car home and just hope that the snake had taken its leave during the day. A case, no doubt, of goodbye and thanks for the memories.
The Hunter Valley Theatre Company usually performs Australian contemporary comedies, but its latest production, Arms and the Man, has taken the local company in a new direction.
Well, it's the first play that we've done for many, many years, which actually goes back beyond 1900. So it's the first classical play which the company has mounted for, almost 10 years, I think.
The romantic comedy by George Bernard Shaw is a tangled love story. A wealthy young woman promised to an aristocrat falls in love with a runaway soldier. But little does she know her so-called suitor is doing a line with the maid.
Forgive me.
I forgive you. That touch makes me your affianced wife.
Ah, I forgot that.
You may withdraw if you like.
Withdraw? Never. You belong to me.
Arms and the Man is the Hunter Valley Theatre Company's last production this year, and they've gone all out to make it a memorable one, with elaborate 19th century costumes hired from the Sydney Theatre Company. The cast of 8 includes faces familiar to local theatre-goers, as well as 2 performers from Sydney. The play opens tomorrow night at the Civic Playhouse.
Waterside workers emerged from the meeting with plenty to think about. They've been told that the Waterside Workers Federation Executive has accepted in principle the need to restructure Australia's port practices. Included in a 3-year plan is the removal of about 3,000 existing positions and the employment of 1,000 fresh workers to rejuvenate the ageing workforce. Federation General Secretary Tas Bull has addressed meetings like this across Australia, hoping to persuade the rank and file to support the program. He doesn't believe Newcastle's 200 members will react any differently.
Oh, I don't think so. I think waterside workers are pretty typical nationwide. There's special problems and special ports, but I don't have any particular reaction to Newcastle members.
The meeting couldn't have been held at a more appropriate time. Activity in the port of Newcastle is at its lowest for months, if not years. While container services in Sydney are overloaded, Newcastle is looking for work. And the unions agree work practices can be improved if the port has more services to offer. Newcastle's big workload fluctuations mean workers are paid from a wages pool during downtime. Mr Bull says more diversity, such as increased container facilities, will ease the problem, but won't end the wage pool system.
Well, it's going to be under review, but I would think that at the end of the day it'll probably be recognised as the most suitable form of employment for ports such as Newcastle and Port Kembla, where you have these big fluctuations.
Union members will be asked to vote either for or against the reforms by secret ballot on October the 23rd. The vote can only be carried by a majority of members and a majority of ports. Tom Hilston for NBN News.
Since late 1987, residents have been campaigning against the proposed plant in Berkeley Vale. Ashlands wanted to relocate their paint and resins manufacturing from Sydney to the new Berkeley Vale industrial estate, but met with stiff opposition. The locals were concerned that the factory would pose a serious environmental threat in case of an accident. After originally approving the plans for the plant, there was a rescission motion which rejected the proposal. The Ashlands company took the case to the Land and Environment Court. Today, Justice Cripps declared the application represented a hazardous and offensive industry and should not be permitted under the existing zoning. Wyong Shire President Clem Payne is happy with the verdict.
I believe the decision is one that's been very much welcomed by the council and the community at large, and especially by members of the Central Coast Against Chemicals Committee who have supported council in this appeal.
Councillor Payne believes the decision will have wide-ranging ramifications.
It has statewide ramifications in that it will now compel state government to look very carefully at the future siting of any toxic or hazardous industry within New South Wales.
Production Director for Ashlands, Thomas Carroll, told NBN Tonight his company was disappointed over the court's decision. At this time, the company was not considering an appeal in the Supreme Court. Mr Carroll said the company believes the safeguards proposed for the Berkeley Vale site were more than adequate, and his organisation is still committed to building a new plant. Asked if the company would look at another location on the Central Coast, Mr Carroll replied, "Definitely not. We'll keep away from the Central Coast." Darren Curtis for NBN News.
The aim of powerlifting is to lift as much weight in one movement as possible. David Vaughan became a 4-times winner at the Australian Drug-Free Powerlifting National Championships in Griffith just 2 weeks ago. Prior to becoming state president of the Australian Drug-Free Powerlifting Association, David was placed 6th in the Australian Powerlifting Games both in 1987 and 1988. He then gave the established powerlifting game away to set up a local drug-free version last January. It's a move that's apparently pleasing parents.
We've had parents ask us from yesterday when we were saying we're doing powerlifting, is there any anabolic steroids or anything like that used in the sport? And our answer is no, it's not. We try to teach the children technique and to train naturally the way it should be.
David teaches powerlifting at Singleton High School, where today he helped set up an intra-school bench press competition. He demonstrated a few winning techniques and was given a helping hand by another champion lifter, his pupil, 17-year-old Robert Nelson. Robert also won 4 championship categories, including lifting 100 kilos on the bench. Today he broke that record, although unofficially, by lifting 110 kilos. And how does he do it?
Drug-free, all the way.
Nestling into the hillside on the edge of Dungog, the nursing home hostel offers comfort and reassurance for the elderly and the frail. Until now, these people were forced to leave the lifeline of their hometown and move to care 80 or 90 kilometres away.
They're cut off, you see. They're cut off from their relatives and the news of the place, and which they've lived with all their lives.
With a rapidly ageing population, Dungog residents realised something had to be done to care for the elderly. 10 years ago, a committee was formed to raise the millions of dollars needed. And through hard work and community spirit, the nursing home changed from mere plans to bricks and mortar.
Everybody has had their own little functions to raise money for it. It's been tremendous.
The builders went to work 15 months ago with $800,000 of government money and $1.2 million from the community, including help from the 1981 NBN Telethon. While there still remain some finishing touches, the 42-bed project, which will be run by a local committee, offers 24-hour nursing care with resources designed specifically for the elderly. Accommodation can be private or mixed, with self-contained units costing around $20,000. Minister for the Environment, Senator Graham Richardson, will officially open the project this Saturday. However, the first occupants aren't expected to move in for 6 weeks.
Instead of taking people away, here's the facility that'll be able to keep them in their own environment, amongst their own families. It'll be tremendous for them.
Water Board, Gas Company and Shortland Electricity employees have all been attacked by family pets while reading meters. Shortland Electricity reader John Mullington believes he was lucky to be alive after he was savaged by a dog at YE earlier this year. The dog ripped his arm and head, requiring 17 stitches. Other attacks include a postie who was knocked from his bike by a dog, resulting in a number of fractures, while a Water Board worker lost the use of 2 fingers after she was bitten on the hand. Shortland Electricity spokesman Phil Neate says today's meeting at Wallsend was designed to work out a strategy to combat the problem and help protect staff.
What basically we got today was an agreement by all the bodies here to cooperate in developing a community awareness program so that people become a little bit more dog responsible.
However, the Dog Act permits an owner to let an animal roam inside the confines of the property, often giving the dog access to where the meter is housed. Mr Neate says the only way to curb the attacks is through public education.
Well, what we want to do is there will be a joint advertising campaign coming out of the thing, which will educate people to put in safety fencing to restrain dogs. The most alarming thing that we're all concerned about is that one day it's not going to be an adult that's injured, it's going to be a child, and then someone's really going to be in trouble.
Rescuers could have had no idea of the scene which was to greet them at the accident. The Holden sedan slammed head-on into a tree at about 9 p.m, 10 kilometres west of the town on the Buckets Way between Taree and Gloucester. The car was crushed to almost half its size. Trapped inside the wreck were 6 badly hurt teenagers. Rescuers separated a tangle of bodies in the overturned car, some of whom were critically injured. 2 girls died in hospital. A third was airlifted to Newcastle in a critical condition. Police Sergeant Dennis Walsham was one of the first at the crash. Today, he revisited the scene.
Well, it was very tragic to see all the young girls. There was a young boy there hurt as well. And I'd like to commend the rescue squad and the ambulance fellas for what they've done in getting the people out.
The 2 girls who died in the crash were 17-year-old driver Tamara Thurling, who'd just got her licence last month, and a passenger, 16-year-old Louina J, both of Taree. A third girl, Shirley McPherson, 16, of Taree, is in Royal Newcastle Hospital in a critical condition with head injuries. The other 3 passengers, 16-year-old Corinne Annetts of Hillville, 16-year-old Rowan Warby of Cundletown, and Sean O'Byrne of Taree, also 16, remain in Manning River Hospital in a stable condition. It's believed the group were dropping a friend at home after a volleyball tournament. All the passengers were students at Taree High School. Headmaster Don Hopkins says classmates are devastated.
It's a very sad day really for the school. Both students meant so much to their families, their classmates, staff. They were highly talented, enthusiastic members of the school, and obviously we've had a large number of their friends most upset.
The shock is being felt not only at this school but at nearby Wingham High School, where the headmaster, Bob J, is in mourning tonight. His daughter Louina died in the crash. The effect of the tragedy on the high school is just a reflection of wider feelings. Each of the victims' families is well known in Taree, and it's a community still close enough to share their grief. Tom Hilston in Taree for NBN News.
The National Safety Council wants to curtail the alarming rate of road deaths. What better day to choose to take action than Friday the 13th? The point the council is making is that accidents are not just bad luck. Many motorists simply flaunt recognised safety precautions. The situation was only too clear today. Young observers stationed at a busy intersection on Industrial Drive paint a grim picture of driving habits.
People not wearing their seat belts and running the red lights and that. Speeding. Yeah, a lot of silly people.
Taxi drivers, none of them ever wear seatbelts. Just young kids, sort of in the back seat, no seatbelts.
Well, we've been staggered actually by the number of people that aren't wearing seatbelts. That's both drivers, passengers and small children.
National statistics reveal young men are the prime offenders when it comes to ignoring seatbelts. Even some of today's observers admit they too often fail to belt up. Do you wear a seatbelt all the time?
Oh yeah, all the time, yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time?
Oh, you know, yeah. Just depends where I'm going. If I'm only going down the road and that, I don't worry.
Do you always wear a seatbelt?
Not always, no, I don't. But when I'm driving around Newcastle, I do. Up in the bush, I don't much.
Today's survey revealed that out of 2,900 vehicles passing through this intersection in a 2-hour period, more than 400 took chances. No seatbelts, dangerous lane changes, and running amber and red lights. The Safety Council's message this Black Friday is that each infringement is a potential casualty.